Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? The Utes look to right the ship with a battle against the Sun Devils of Arizona State. Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
100%. But since there is no mandate, why would you tip your hand in any way, shape, or form with injuries? It doesn't make any sense to give the opponent any more knowledge than they have. And so that's the only reason. It's no other reason other than a competitive advantage. Even though it might be just slight, it's still an advantage. The less they know, the more we know, that type of deal. But yeah, I would support that.
Coach Kyle Whittingham, you heard him right there. I don't have to say it. So there you go.
He's right. He doesn't.
Since there's no mandate, and then he's looking does that mean he wants one? Does
he actually endorses it?
That's
yes.
what I'm saying.
But he's not going to go out on a limb and be the only guy.
No, and he's not going to do something that he doesn't have to, which is that's the way you got to do it.
Well, do you think I care?
I know you don't, but guess what? The rest of us do. I mean, my goodness. Kyle Whittingham, another week in the books as his weekly press conference rolled out, and he went right at it, and I had to address the Cam Rising stuff, and we'll get into that. Our program brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar perfect for anybody who needs a quick, tasty, and nutritious boost. Kyle Whittingham is where we're going to start things off here, his weekly press conference addressing this team and what they're going to look like this week. Who knows what they're going to look like, but we'll start it off with the cut.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And this portion of the show brought to you by an incredible selection of Kia, Subaru, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram. It's the Doug Smith dealerships in American Fork and Spanish Fork. Great service starts with know-how, and nobody knows like Doug. Let's listen to a couple of pieces here before we even listen to Kyle Whittingham. It's such a hard thing to go in. It's one thing to go into the bye week. This is why going into bye weeks is tough on a loss like that to Arizona, because you had two things that happened that make people scratch their heads. It's like, dang it, you got to wait these 2 weeks. It was annoying to have to watch everybody else play. And then it was annoying to watch Arizona lose to Texas Tech, because then you're like, what is it that this team is? Is that more of a function of the Big 12 and the competitive nature of what the conference is? Or is it just that Utah was so out of sorts that night and maybe even had a competitive disadvantage to the fact that they probably maybe rolled out a little bit later than they wanted to, that Isaac Wilson was going to be the starter that week?
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But this wasn't just a one-game thing. They just happened to lose that game. They had moments in that Oklahoma State game where you're like, why are you guys – because they absolutely should have throttled them. And there were moments where they were playing like that. They were dominating them. But then they let them off the hook at the end of the game, and Oklahoma State almost came back and won that game. You look at the Utah State game. Utah was down to Utah State 14-3. Utah State got their doors blown off by Temple. So these problems, and it's not just the quarterback position, started to build and crop up well before what happened last Saturday night. And that was really disappointing, because I'm still convinced that on paper Utah's the better team. But it was clearly Arizona. Like Arizona, it was not like a fluke play or some kind of weird, stupid thing happened. Like Arizona, right from the jump,
they were
was
tougher.
in control of that game.
They were tougher too, which is a weird thing to say for the Utes at home.
It got to halftime. I'm like, this doesn't feel good at all, right? There's some games where you're like, okay, like even Utah State, right? You knew that they were going to come back and get stuff figured out. That Arizona game felt different. So I want to say that it's just a function of one game, but Utah's got some things they need to iron out. Now, they could have done that during the bye week, obviously getting healthy. If you get Connor O'Toole and Karenni Reed back, your defense is going to be a lot better. You're going to get more pressure on the quarterback. You get your quarterback of the defense back. You're going to have a more sound tackler in the middle handling that thing, and everyone's going to fall behind, right behind in his leadership and follow his example. And then on the other side, if you got Cam Rising back, I think Isaac's been really good, but there's been moments where he's been a freshman, and that's okay. But this is a season where you weren't supposed to be breaking in a freshman. If this was next year, everyone would be like, this is fine, we're good. Like, Utah's going to be good. Like, there's so many things to be excited about Isaac Wilson. It's unfair to Isaac, but he's been thrown in this situation where this is a year where they have college football playoff expectations. Like, if they don't go to the college football playoff this year and they don't go to the Big 12 championship game, this would be looked at as a massive failure for the program.
The Utes have a Friday night matchup this week against Arizona State. They go down to Tempe. That's a much improved. By the way, if you would have had on your bingo card of all the weird bingo card things that we've had this year with the Big 12, how about Utah and Arizona having the same record overall and the same conference record going into this game? We would have never thought.
No way.
It's just as much of a shock for Utah to be 4-1, having lost that game at home against Arizona, as it is Arizona State putting it together and having a 4-1 year so far and being 1-1 in conference play, despite the fact that everybody had already signed them up to be either dead last or second to last in the Big 12 standings. But again, the Big 12 gives you something weird every year. I don't know why we just try to go chalk and figure out what these teams are going to be, because they always seem to. And I'm glad for Kenny Dillingham, man. I'm glad. But,
it's a good story.
But you know what? They've got this game at home. And if you think that Kenny Dillingham hasn't circled this one as a possible program changer for them, if you beat Utah at your place, it's a Friday night, late night game. Maybe there's a little bit of that weird juju in the air where they're able to you're able to kind of pounce on the fact that maybe they don't have their quarterback situation totally figured out. But here's what Kyle Whittingham had to say in his weekly press conference about the Cam Rising situation. Tell me if you've heard this one before.
We're following the recommendations. He is following the recommendations as well as from the doctors, and we'll see what happens this week. But there's a chance, I can tell you that. And it's still early in the week, but we're crossing our fingers and hoping for the best, as is Cam. And so we're just seeing how things play out. But again, we follow all the medical recommendations. We're not going to, I'm not a doctor. Cam's not a doctor. We're not going to go against that. So that's where we're at.
Now, there's two things. I do want to play this one. Again, this is right out of the hit this button and tell me if you've heard this one before, but he talked about which quarterback would be playing this weekend for this Utah team, and here's what he had to say about it.
It's who gives you the best chance to win. Is an 80% Cam Rising more of an opportunity to win than 100% Isaac Wilson? And so that's a coach's decision, a coach's call. It's just you're not going to be right all the time, but that's the exact criteria we use. And first of all, you don't want to expose the kid to furthering the injury, but you wouldn't get clearance if you didn't, if that was the case. So it would be exactly what you just said. Whoever that particular week gives us the best chance to win, given the physical circumstances, that would be the guy.
You can't feel good about any of this if you're a Utah fan, right? You can't feel good about any of this because it's the same old. It sounds the same. And I know he's saying a lot of like, well, and I don't have to tell you anyway, and that's going to be up to us. It doesn't matter. But it gives you the feeling like an 80% Cam, if that's the guy who can go this weekend, is that a better chance for you to be 80% Cam or 100% Isaac Wilson? I don't like any of those options because it makes it sound like, one, you're freshman. I get that Isaac Wilson is not the quarterback that Cam Rising is yet. But I don't like this idea of the back and forth of, 80% Cam could be better than 100% Isaac. It's just so weird, JJ, to be talking about this time of year, and it's the last thing that you wanted to do. Now, this was an interesting one from the press conference, which is he was asked about whether or not there would be a moment where you just say, you know what, let's shut down Cam and we'll move on from this season for him, whether or not that means he's done, with this Utah program overall. I mean, I would have reason to believe that even if he is, even if they do shut him down, he might actually not get an extra. If he gets an extra year, that year might not be with Utah. But here's what he said about the possibility of what that future looks like with Cam.
Yeah, there is a point. I'm not going to pin ourselves down to an exact specific time, but as things progress, and then also the conference race, where are you in the conference race? There's some things that enter into it, but it certainly could come to that point, but we're not there yet.
That sounds dire, doesn't it?
The key
not
word
really,
he
but
said
kind
there is the conference race. So as long as Utah is competing for a Big 12 championship and in the mix for a place in that game, I'm sure they're going to try to get Cam out on the field and lead them wherever they're going to go. But the second, what happened last year, you kind of felt like once they lost to Washington last year, they went into a totally different mode about what they were trying to do and accomplish, what their goals were, because the championship was no longer in the mix. So I think once that happens, and I don't know how far away we are. Obviously, if they win all the games in October, you're still crossing your fingers, Cam for BYU, right? It's crazy we're still having that conversation that he would miss 3 more weeks, but I have nothing to go on and no reason to think that Cam's going to be back until he actually rolls out on the field.
This is way too early to be asking this question, but this is what we do.
Right.
Speculate on
because this is what everyone else is doing.
Right. If Cam Rising doesn't come back this year, does he play in a University of Utah uniform again?
No.
What's the future then, do you think?
I think he probably should retire from football.
I think he probably still goes on and plays somewhere else. I really do.
You think he'll try to go play college football another year?
If he gets a medical release
Well,
somewhere, Utah may move on from him.
I'll be blunt. The money he's got the last 2 years, it will not be there wherever he
Well,
goes.
of course, but I think that if he got a
what's
third
the
of
incentive
that,
at that point?
I don't
right?
know. I mean, it's not to go to the league, and you still got to put some film out there if you want to have that shot.
The league's not an option because you haven't played for 2 years.
Yeah, it's wild.
So he needs to be out there.
And by the way, you're putting on hold another part of what the knock is on you as a draft prospect, which is that you've been playing. You're old. You're football old, right?
He's 25 years old.
It's a reason why, and at this point
he was
next
born
year,
in 1999.
right? And at this point next year, you'd be 26,
right?
And people would be looking at you like, yeah, there's a reason why guys like Taysom Hill weren't viable quarterback situations for us because we don't want to take on a 26, 27-year-old, 26-and-a-half-year-old by the time he'd get drafted.
How many rookie quarterbacks did we have on Sunday win games? Jaden Daniels.
21-and-a-half.
Bo Nix is a little older, but not
right.
that much older,
not
right?
Much, yeah.
Caleb Williams was awesome on Sunday. So you've got 22, 23-year-old guys out there getting it done on Sundays. So you can see I hate that we're having the conversation. I know Cam's hurt. Let's make that clear. We're not. We understand and know that situation. We just have to be honest about what this means for the program and what this means for him moving forward. Like at some point, you just got to say it's time to move on.
But you know who really hates this conversation, but he has to have it is Kyle Whittingham.
Of course.
He was actually asked about that and the possibility of another year of eligibility for Cam.
You know what? I couldn't say for sure. That's a compliance question. But if it does come to that point, that's something we would thoroughly have the answer to and research. But haven't even really given that any thought because we're just hopefully going to get him back sooner rather than later. So, and I know he wants to play. He wants to play badly.
Remember the old Tommy Boy joke? A lot of people go to college for 7 years.
They're called
doctors.
Yeah.
Cam would be going into his 8th year of eligibility.
Well, there'd be a lot of Dr. Rising jokes. They could even make a campaign out of it. Like posters and everything with him with the stethoscope.
Come on. You know what? That's what it is. He gets all of his money from University of Utah Health going forward as an actual doctor.
You know what I want for him? I want him to get down the field against Arizona State and for the rest of the season and put all this talk to bed. I want to see him have one last run with this team and whatever that ends up being, make it the best.
Yeah.
This is not the way I want Cam Rising to be remembered because he won 2 Pac-12 championships.
Yep.
And it sucks that we're having this conversation. And so for him and for everybody else involved, it just I don't care. Even a BYU fan, you probably empathetic and thinking like, man, this really sucks. Like this guy doesn't deserve this, but it's just a bummer that these things have happened. And at some point, you got to. I mean, I remember Chucky Keaton at Utah State. Like what he did for that program was incredible. But then he got injured and he was never the same.
Yeah.
His NFL prospects went away, and they still stuck with him, and he just couldn't play anymore. So I hope that's not the case with Cam. We need to see Cam on the field, though, to even evaluate that. So let's hope he gets out on the field sooner rather than later. But I am skeptical it's going to happen anytime soon.
Well, and here's the other thing. If an 8th year of eligibility really did come up, at that point you're not thinking about whether or not Cam is the guy for you going forward. It's about Isaac Wilson because at that point he needs to be the guy going forward. Right? So you can't afford to be like doing this start and stop thing with Isaac Wilson and whether or not he's going to be your guy. You've got to make sure that you get to that spot.
Not only at that point should you be worrying about getting Isaac Wilson ready. You got to go find the next Isaac Wilson.
I know, yes.
You got to go out and get somebody ready to back him up, right?
It's crazy.
Whether that's on the roster now or a recruit or a transfer portal situation. Like this is college football. You're supposed to evolve and move on in 4 years, and the process has been weird the last few years because of the pandemic and because of all the stuff that's happened with NIL. It's a little bit different, but like there needs to be progress. You need to be moving forward, and this program is eventually at some point is going to have to move forward, and it could be sooner than later.
Okay. Hey, coming up in just a little bit, we're going to be chatting with Cole Bagley, our Utah Hockey Club insider. And as of tomorrow, officially We will all be absolutely hockey fans, officially, regular season, NHL hockey, hitting Utah tomorrow. At this time tomorrow, you and I will be over on the plaza.
Crazy.
At Delta Center, asking for Mark Messier to come over and say hi to us on our show. But we'll see. We'll see what we'll see what the big ESPN is going to do. If they'll allow us to have a few minutes with PK Subban. I just need 5 or 12 minutes. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
We'll cut him loose when you guys need him, all right? But we're excited. Cole Bagley is going to join us in just a little bit. By the way, we are at the Dish Pros here in Sandy, 8034 South State Street. He challenges you to bring those in because he wants to beat those. You get the best TV for your business. You get the best TV for your home. You get the best TV and best internet option and even a mobile option out there. Ryan's out saving people money, not just on one thing with the TV part. It's everything else too, JJ. That makes
a lot
it
of
a great
options.
deal.
Yeah, you look at the Boost Mobile offers they have, the internet, they'll try to beat any price out there. So there's so many reasons to come down here to check out what they have to offer. Don't settle for crap TV right now. Don't pay too much. Like, there's too many great sports things going on right now. You need to have the best. You got to have the DVR. You got to be locked in with everything that they offer right now. And no one's going to be able to give you a better deal than the Dish Pros. So come down here and talk to Ryan. If you can't get down here, give them the number. What do they call?
We're going to call them up. The usual number that you've heard us saying for years, that Ryan's been getting on the airwaves with for years, 801-424-DISH. That's 801-424-DISH. The best DVR, the best 2-year price guarantee. You're going to get all of it, okay? And Ryan and the guys can get you installed the next day. We will come right back. We got more to go right here on the program. Stay with us. 801-424-DISH. That's 801-424-DISH. More to go around the corner. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
With complete coverage of the Utah Hockey Club, this is Cole Bagley of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome on in. It is JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, brought to you by... We're at the Dish Pros today, by the way, in Sandy. We got tons going on, not the least of which is baseball playoffs live and in front of us. I'm watching. Everybody was on their lip reading best, trying to figure out what CeeDee Lamb said to Dak Prescott last night. But the Cowboys won. Who cares? All right?
Exactly.
They showed Jerry up in his suite hugging people. It didn't matter. All right.
Hey, I'm a Broncos fan. We watched Bo Nix and Sean Payton getting in an argument on the sideline.
You know what?
And they won 34 to 18.
You know what I thought about that?
Who cares?
Dude, you know what I thought about that before we get to Cole? I thought to myself, dang it, that's what good teams do. They're good, and then they fight. And by the way, Sean Payton, that's what he does with his guys, by the way. He gets in their ears, and he says, and he demands, like he's not like a soft, touchy-feely guy. Sean Payton is grumpy. Sean Payton is the new Bill Belichick. He's just a little bit younger, right? Like he's seasoned. He's got championships under his belt. He knows exactly what to do, and he knows how to talk to quarterbacks, and that's how he talked to Bo Nix. And you know what? You saw the press conference afterward, and they asked Bo Nix about it, and he goes, "Oh yeah, no, I turned around to him and I told him I love him, and he said back to me, I love you too." Like that, they were like, "What was that conversation?" He goes, "Oh no, I just told him I loved him, and he told me I loved him back, or he told me that he loves me." And I was like, they have it too well together. They have it too well put together. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. As a guy who doesn't like the Broncos, although I'm fine with them beating the Raiders. And how many of you guys beaten the Raiders? How often have you beaten the Raiders?
It hasn't been often, so that was why that was such a nice thing to do it at home. In the old Broncos uniforms, it was pretty nice.
Oh, by the way, stick with them forever.
I
Those
agree.
jerseys are the best.
Like, go back to
Problem is they
look
won,
so beautiful on
but everybody
Sunday.
remembers John Elway in the other outfits. That's what they remember. Right?
They did win the Super Bowls in the modern jerseys, but I would love to go back to the old orange and blue.
There you go. Speaking of doing it at home, tomorrow the Utah Hockey Club is going to be doing it for the first time at home against the Chicago Blackhawks. Yes, I think the streets have already been shut down around Delta Center, right? We're going to have some insane stuff going on in the plaza tomorrow. We're going to be broadcasting live as the official radio home of the Utah Hockey Club. It's the beginning officially of an era tomorrow night. And joining us right now is our Utah Hockey Club insider for KSLSports.com, Cole Bagley. What's going on, Cole? Have you wrapped your head around the fact that this is your life now?
This
it doesn't feel real.
I know,
but it's super exciting, and it's really all come together. We're through the preseason, training camp's over. We've got an opening night roster. The players are ready to go. It's go time. So, puck drops tomorrow night, 8:00, and this thing gets going for real.
Let's get into the opening night roster. Any surprises?
No, I think it's shaped out exactly how most expected it to. The most notable thing on the roster is the fact that John Marino and Nick Bukestad, are on the injured reserve list to start the season, which was what we anticipated. Bukestad will be on there for a good amount of time, while Marino should be back here in the next few weeks. But with that being said, with those two not on the opening roster and on the injured reserve list, that opened up some space for guys like Tyler Yamamoto and Josh Doan to be listed on that opening night roster, which is super exciting. Those two were some of the biggest names we talked about during the preseason. They very obviously were the two guys giving the most effort. Yamamoto on a professional tryout, and Doan trying to crack his very first opening day roster, hoping for what should be considered a rookie season for him. So super excited for those guys. They're very deserving, and this roster should be a lot of fun, especially tomorrow night.
What else have we learned about this roster? When you saw the opening one up and you saw, obviously, the injuries that affect it, but when you see that roster, where does it really stack up in your mind? Like, yep, these are all the guys you expected, and Coach Bear's got a lot of talent on that team, but they have a lot to prove.
Yeah, I think what stands out the most about this roster is how many guys are potentially poised to have breakout seasons. Guys like Dylan Guenther, Logan Cooley, Barrett Hayton, maybe some more goal scoring from Matthias Michelli, who was the second leading assist skater on the team last year. And as well, the additions on the defensive end. A lot of people have been kind of talking about, is this a team that could make the playoffs this year? And my answer to that is yes. Now, it's not a guarantee, but when I look at this roster top to bottom, you look at the veterans that are on this team, the young guns that are poised for a breakout season, the reliable, more veteran-type players, and then the additions to the defense. They added 5 or 6 Stanley Cups to this roster, which they didn't have any before. And, that goes a long way, especially down the stretch, and if you do happen to make the playoffs. So that's what stands out to me about this roster, is just so much new potential in this new chapter of hockey and the NHL in Utah.
Bill Armstrong, I think, has tried to temper some of those expectations, reminding everybody, hey, this franchise comes here in the 4th year of a rebuild. And, we're trying to temper our expectations a little bit because we all dream about what it would be like to cover a team that makes the Stanley Cup playoffs in its first year. But Cole, I'm reading around. I'm checking in with all these national experts, and they all like the Utah Hockey Club as like the surprise pick to go to the playoffs. Frank Saravalli, the latest one, to share that bold prediction. Should we be more? Should we, I guess, be more excited about that possibility? And what needs to go right for Utah Hockey Club to make that happen?
Yeah, I mean, you heard it from Keller himself on your show last week that he feels like this rebuild is starting to come to an end and that they're ready to make that jump. And a lot of these national writers are pretty much taking notice of the same things that I've been taking notice of. The additions to the defense, the young guns, the seasoned vets. And then I think there's a lot to be said about the energy surrounding this team, the support from management, the support from the fan base. They really haven't had that, when they were in Arizona. And, now they're here with a brand new arena that's 3 times as big currently as their previous arena. They've got a management that knows what they're doing, that has been supportive from day one and given them, everything they could ever hope and dream of. And then as well, you have to look at, just the divisions. I mean, the Central Division, in my opinion, is the toughest top to bottom. You pretty much have 4 teams that are a lock for the playoffs unless something goes terribly wrong, and that's Dallas, Nashville, Colorado, and Winnipeg. Winnipeg might be the only team that's questionable in terms of a lock, but I still think that, those 4 are going to have more points than Utah. But what they can do is they can steal a playoff spot from the Pacific Division, which is which is not as good. I think there's, really two teams that are a lock, and that's Vancouver and Edmonton, which would leave two more spots between, Los Angeles and Vegas. And I just don't know that those two teams are going to make the playoffs. There's a very real chance that Utah has a better record and steals that spot away and forces the Central to send 5 teams. And that's what a lot of these national writers have also been saying is, hey, we're not saying that Utah is going to be better than the top 4 teams in the Central, but they certainly could nab a spot from the Pacific and be a 5th Central Division team to the Stanley Cup playoffs.
As you mentioned, too, Clayton Keller came on the show on Friday, and he's the captain of this hockey club. And what do they ask of captains? And what does that actually mean in the NHL when you get named captain? And I guess what is he in terms of what they are looking for? Because a pick like that, you're trying to establish a culture. And Clayton Keller, obviously a multiple-time All-Star, and likely, he's your best player. But it's right. More than that, right? They're asking you to do more than that. When you're the captain of a team in the NHL, what does that mean?
Receiving the C on your sweater is a prestigious honor. This is a big deal. When someone is named a captain, it's a historic day. It's a historic event. So for the last couple of years, Arizona didn't have a captain. And the reason for that is after they had one of their longest tenured captains, they kind of struck out a few times. They had a couple of these things go the wrong way. And so they wanted to make sure that they had a clear and defined guy who could put on that C. And I think, transitioning to Utah also weighed into a little bit. It's a new place. It's a new time to start. You want to start off on the right foot and name somebody that the fans can attach themselves to. And there's really no better guy on this roster, in my perspective, and the perspective of the coaches and the players, is Clayton Keller. For a captain, they lead your team on and off the ice. They're the guy that's pushing everybody in practice, that's helping set expectations, and that's also kind of the in between from the players to the coach kind of standpoint. Those two are going to have a lot of, Bear and Keller are going to have a lot of conversations about the team, and it's Keller's job to at times deliver those messages and help his teammates out. And then, of course, the captain is also leading the team on the ice in terms of, efforts, and then as well communicating with officials. Now, they will have a few alternate captains as well that will share those responsibilities. But, Keller's the guy, and I think, like you were talking about, he's the best player on this team. But he also gives incredible effort. I spoke to several of the players, including Lawson Krause, Sean Dursey, and Sean Dursey is a guy that's played for some prestigious captains in the NHL during his time in LA. And both guys said there's no better person on this roster than Keller to be leading this team and wearing the C.
Tuesday night's going to be amazing. No matter what happens, I think we all are just going to be totally enthralled and amazed at what's happening, and the surrealness is going to wear away and it becomes reality. Is Chicago the perfect team to be playing? Obviously, the team wants to get a win, but is everything set up for Tuesday night to be as special as we hope it is?
It definitely is from all aspects. From a game experience aspect, there's going to be a lot of fun things going on. Festivities technically begin at 12:30 tomorrow. There's going to be a press conference with Ryan and Ashley Smith. I believe the NHL commissioner is going to be in town. You're going to have some ESPN is going to be have their live broadcast from 2 p.m. We should see some NHL greats in Mark Messier and PK Subban, joining the program. They're going to be broadcasting the other games around the country live. And then we've got a concert with Shabuzi at 5:30 that's for free outside Delta Center. Doors open at 6:30. And then, the puck drops at 8, and there's going to be even more things going on inside Delta Center. There's rumors that it's going to be snowing, inside Delta Center. And there should be some exclusive swag handed out and for sale. And so, from a fan experience point, it's going to be awesome. And then to answer your question, Chicago is the perfect team to bring in for an opening night, for an inaugural game. They're not a very good team. They're probably one of the bottom teams in the NHL. They do have a up-and-coming star that, by the end of his career may be on the the Mount Rushmore, if you will, of the NHL and Connor Bedard. But aside from that, this is not a very good team. And so hopefully, the things go the right way. Hopefully the club is prepared the way that they need to. And, yeah, I anticipate a victory tomorrow night. Hopefully they can get a couple goals up on the scoreboard and win this one and give the fans every reason to lose their minds and pop the top off of the Delta Center.
Pop the top off the Delta Center. That's listen, this is something we've been waiting for a long time. When I say a long time, I mean 6 months. So, but it has been a wild 6 months. I mean, it's crazy how quickly this thing all came together in historic fashion. Cole Bagley, of course, is going to have his byline at the KSLSports.com website all season long. When it comes to Utah Hockey Club, he's going to be taking care of you. So, Cole, we appreciate it, man. And tomorrow, wander on past the broadcast, and we'll chat with you again and see how you feel.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it, guys.
There you go. Cole Bagley, everybody. Man, it's exciting. It almost feels like that at some point before tomorrow they'll go, no, actually, hey, you're not ready. It's like
the commissioner shows up.
It's like a nightmare.
Yeah, you know what?
It's like, I had a dream. They took my diploma away. No, tomorrow is going to be tons of fun, and we're going to be out there on the plaza, and we're going to be broadcasting from there. We're going to be doing all day, and you're just going to be loving it, and we're going to be just soaking it all up. It's going to be tons of fun. Hans and Scotty, by the way, on Wednesday are going to give you their Cougar preview show like they do every week, 1 to 3, brought to you by the folks at Beehive Meals, proud meal partner of BYU Athletics. We'll come back. We've got more to go. When we return, let's get to our locals in the NFL. Another good weekend for the guys. JJ, of course, the most qualified to talk about it because they dedicate so much of their program on the weekend to make sure you see how well the guys who are tied to the local programs here are doing in the NFL. We'll talk about it next. 97.5 KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? The Aggies return home to Logan for a battle against the Rebels of UNLV on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Oh, my goodness. What does that mean they're having a game break? What is this, halftime at a baseball game?
It's post-game. Is there another game tonight? There is.
It's not over, though, is it?
Oh, it's over.
Oh,
3-0. The Tigers.
So
hit
the Tigers.
three-run
So
home
that
run.
3-run homer was like when?
That was it.
Bottom of 8.
It was late. Yes.
Or I mean top 8.
That's exactly when it was. In fact, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it was top 8. It was. I thought maybe.
Yeah, Carpenter homer to right. It was actually the top of the 9th.
Top of the 9th. That's phenomenal. See, that's why you got to love baseball, man.
Again, we talk about the drama.
I love it. Postseason in baseball, it's not quite NHL postseason, but it gets more intense. Like it definitely gets ratcheted up. It's pretty special. Yeah, we've got tons going on. We're at the Dish Pros here in Sandy. 8034 South State Street is where you can find us here at the Dish Pros, and Ryan is hanging out here with us. Ryan, first of all, we had a young lady walk in and go, am I not supposed to be here? Because we're staring right at people when they walk in.
Just looking at her.
And I just thought, I don't know how you feel about this compliment because I know you're a 49ers guy, but she said, you look like Aaron Rodgers. You guys look like you're way too intense talking about you and I.
Yeah.
As if, like, I don't give off an intense
She
vibe.
insulted us, but she sure complimented Ryan.
You look like Aaron Rodgers. And I was like, oh, I don't know how he's going to take that. Did you take that okay?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually seems like I get that a lot. Like Dallas Clark, when I was younger, I got that a lot. So
I see that.
Have you been in any dark caves lately? Maybe hit up some magic mushrooms? Anything we need to know about?
Nope.
Okay.
Any controversial interviews with Pat McAfee?
Well, listen, Ryan, we're here at the Dish Pros because that means we have some special stuff here. If we're here, that means that you've invited us for a special reason, and that special reason is not just the normal best price offers that you already give everybody every day. It's $100. It's $100 cash back. You're going to cut a check for people who sign up and get that stuff going. And because you have the lowest price guaranteed, you know they're going to be saving money.
Yeah, this is kind of a little special thing. We get a lot of pressure from Dish of like, hey, what can we do to add new numbers? And so we get these remotes together, and they give me a little extra funding, and I share that money to the listeners. And this is one of those things that I tell you. I know I'm sure there's a lot of people out there. I'm like, I'm going to call, or I'm going to do it, or I'm curious. This is the day. Pick up the phone and call us. Let's see if you are one of the many that is going to save $1,000, $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 by just picking up the phone and making the switch. And you get an upgrade. You get all the games, and you get better equipment for less money.
And this is a really good time to do it, right? Because you don't have just TV deals. You've got all the other things you're offering. But right now, like if you're a sports fan listening right now, which is our audience, like this is the best time of year. You got to be ready to go.
It is. And, Dish does have that awesome DVR, 16 tuners. It'll auto-record your games for you. It'll auto-hop commercials. And you get content that you can take with you, which is something I really enjoy. I've traveled numerous times where we were in Mexico, and I was watching the games on my my DVR on my app, and having access to that DVR recordings also with all the other content is super awesome.
Yeah, I've told you before about getting on the Dish Anywhere app and being able to, you could either pull up the stuff from your DVR or you just stream live TV too. Yeah. That's the other thing. And so it's an easy, it's a no-brainer, especially if you're going to be saving money. I would challenge people just to even look and see what their bill is that they've been paying for the last few years. Right. There might be a situation where they probably have no idea how much money they've been losing out on, and you can give them that guaranteed locked into your price with Dish, and it's the lowest price you're going to get guaranteed. And on top of all the other stuff, and $100, and then just all the freebies that come with it. So take advantage, you guys. Let's give them a call, 801-424-DISH. That's 801-424-DISH. Tell them you heard it on the radio, and we get that deal for you, and let's get it going. Ryan, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. All right, we'll take the break. We'll come back. I promise we'll get to our locals in the NFL at some point. All right? Don't you dare worry about it. Stay here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.